Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Steve Barber, and joining me is the dynamic Dwaylen Davis.
Hey, everybody.
You know him. He is the greatest co-host in the world, and I will fight anybody who wants to disagree with me. I mean, period. You know, I'm gonna do like the whole Steven Crowder thing. Have the sign that says Dwaylen's best co-host. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that on there. Trust me. So, I hope everybody's been doing all right. Today, we are going to be discussing kind of an interview that Becky Lynch did the other day, a few days ago, and she was discussing the rosters, the respective women's rosters from the WWE compared against the AEW, and what she had to say. It's kind of ruffled some feathers, what it sounds like.
Yeah, a little bit. From what I've seen on Twitter, yeah, some people have had quite a bit to say about it.
Well, Becky, I don't, your haircut, like Dwayne said, makes you look like you came out of the movie Blade Runner. And nothing against the movie, nothing against your haircut, but I'm not my thing. So,
no.
I mean, but besides that, I mean, what else has been going on? I mean, I've been once again, I'm just completely out of it.
Let's see. AEW announced, this was last week actually on Dynamite. AEW announced that they are doing a joint pay-per-view with New Japan Pro Wrestling called Forbidden Door. It's going to be
I did see a little bit about that
in June. So that's going to be pretty awesome because you're going to get some matchups you never thought you'd see. Supposed to get hear more about that. I'm sure it'll ramp up after. I'm sure we'll hear some things trickling in from AEW, but I'm sure it'll probably ramp up after AEW's next pay-per-view, which CM Punk is in the main event of Double or Nothing. He gets a title shot against Adam Page.
You think Punk's going to turn?
I don't know.
I mean, I would say it's too early, to be honest with you, but
yeah, some people are thinking that Adam Page's title run has been a bust. I don't. I think it's been a progression. You know, the storyline he had this 2-year storyline of him chasing the title. He wins the title. Now he's growing as a champion, and like each match, you can tell he's getting more comfortable as champion. There's 2 ways they could go about doing this. They could have Adam Page beat CM Punk, which solidifies him as a credible world champion, because then he would have beaten Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, and CM Punk. He beat Kenny Omega to win the title, and then Danielson and Punk to retain. Or because Eddie Kingston and CM Punk still, they had that great match, at the pay-per-view, but they're still taking shots at each other. Like CM Punk had a promo last night, and he said that he's never been in a locker room with the type of talent and respect that he sees in AEW. He said, except for Eddie Kingston, he still sucks. But basically something to that extent. And
that's
I feel like that they're still keeping those breadcrumbs out there to lead back to another match. So what if Punk beats Page, and somewhere down the line, Eddie Kingston, after he's done with his Chris Jericho feud, gets a shot at the title, and Eddie Kingston beats Punk to be AEW World Champion?
I like that kind of booking because I mean we're both old school, because we remember it's like, okay, Dusty may beat Tully, or Tully may beat Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like it's kind of ended, but they're always saying, by the way, I haven't forgotten about you.
Exactly. I've moved on to something else temporarily, but I haven't forgotten about you.
Right.
And I could see that, and that would be good. Especially, I love Eddie Kingston. I would love to see him win the world title, even if he's only like a transitional champion. The run doesn't have to be long. I think for Eddie, everything he's done for wrestling, I think winning a world title would be enough.
In a way, he's kind of like I would compare him to Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even if it's not a long title run.
Right. Even if it's not, because Eddie Kingston is so respected by everybody in wrestling for, he's been doing this 20 plus years, and most of it until he got to AEW, other than when he was in Impact Wrestling, which he was more of a manager there, it's been on the independent scene. So,
right.
He's on a weekly televised wrestling show, and the number 2 wrestling show in the world, really. And it'd be great to see him win the world title. Yeah, the Mick Foley comparison, I like that.
Yeah, because I mean, that's about the best thing I can think of, because I mean, Foley went from, he was, I don't want to say necessarily an indie king, because he wrestled a little bit on the indies, but then he was in he was in USWA or whatever it was called. He was in Memphis. Then he was in World Class, and then he came to, he was in Continental for a bit. Then he came to WCW.
He was in WCW. Then he left there, went to ECW, and then finally ended up in WWE, a second time, because when his rookie year he was there. But
yeah, I remember, and I remember when that match first came on, I didn't realize who he was until later on they showed the match, and I'm like, I remember that match.
Yeah, and I remember the Bulldogs beating the crap out of him too.
Yeah, they did. and then he walked in the dressing room. The way he talked about that's in his book, and he walked in the dressing room, and they thought that he was going to start swinging at him.
Yeah.
But he just said, "Oh, thank you for the Adrian," because he couldn't move his mouth. And what's funny? I was Kingston. He is from Rochester, New York, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm also thinking this is another kind of a comparison. Is I'm trying to see how far Rochester is from Buffalo. It's about an hour and 9 minutes, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to guess probably like what it would be if you had to drive back to Hoptown right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very famous band from Buffalo who had many albums out before they finally hit it big. When they hit it big, I mean, they hit it huge. Goo Goo Dolls.
Yep. Yeah, they had a lot of albums before they hit it big.
Yep, because their bass player was actually the one singing lead. And yeah, and then when they switched to Johnny Resnick singing lead, I think maybe plus I mean he kind of had more of that look.
Yeah. He had more of that rock star look.
Yeah.
Than the bassist did. Yeah.
And of course they had the one song Name. I was like, okay. And then their next album came out and just blew up. I mean, that's the one that had Iris. Sympathy, and all these other songs. And it's like, okay, and they've been a staple ever since. And but it's kind of the same thing. They had so many albums out, they never thought they would hit all of a sudden.
Yep.
And they just right about when other bands would have quit, they would have called it a day. They say, okay, we're not going to reach that. And they kept going. And of course, it is actually kind of funny. This is like around 2004 or 5 on 4th of July weekend. They actually they put on a concert in Buffalo, and it was outdoors. And the rain started pouring, and it poured hard. And you could actually see and they were filming it. But whenever Resnick was singing, of course, the crowd's into it. The bass player, he would actually come out and start singing too, his lead, and the crowd's like, okay. You had a couple of people who remember the old stuff, but I mean, and it's not that he was a bad singer, but I mean, and he's a good bass player, but but that's Kingston kind of reminds me of that. He paid his dues.
Yep.
And give him the number one, because the Goo Goo Dolls, they had a number one song, after years and years of trying. Kingston the same way. I mean, after years and years of being on the indies, and now he's got that brass ring and he's rolling with it. And I don't blame him.
Yep.
But so I'd like to see him and Punk go at it again. Especially for the title. If he beats Punk for the title, like I said, even if it is a short reign, he's still, you can say, former world champion Eddie Kingston. So but Eddie Kingston's not a woman, and that's what we came here to talk about. But before we get to talk about them, I want to go ahead and give some contact and listening info for anyone who so desires. If you'd like to email us about anything at all, really, you have a topic idea. If you want to tell us that we're great, if you want to tell us that we suck, don't email us. I mean, we had that before. But it's at armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. Just search for it and you can find it. You can find us on Instagram also at Armchair Booking Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Booking Armchair. You can find us on TikTok at Armchair Booking. And you can also find us obviously on YouTube. If you're watching this, you should already know that. On the audio platform, we are on just about any audio platform that you can think of, especially since we just switched from Block Talk Radio over to Spreaker. Spreaker opened up a whole lot of other world I didn't even know about. I mean, literally, there's a platform in India I had no idea about. And we're on there, and we've had people listening.
Excuse me.
Which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yep. And now I will say some of the ones we've uploaded to, we had to put on a new stream. I think Google Podcast is on a little bit of delay. It even says, it may be a few weeks before it starts showing up.
Okay.
But we are back on iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio, I'm so sorry. You no longer suck. I mean, and like I was telling Dwaylen yesterday, or a couple days ago, I think or maybe even Justin from Jay and Trey, or Justin and Trey. I think the reason why it stopped because they had an agreement, and I don't know this for sure. I'm just speculating. They had an agreement because Spreaker is actually owned by iHeartRadio.
Okay.
And so when they went with that, all of a sudden, that's when the other feed stopped updating.
Okay.
This new feed has everything, and it's been updating because I check them every time. And I do this obviously for business reasons to make sure our stuff is, when we do an episode, I'd like for it to be available. And, I prefer Apple Podcasts because I have an iPhone, but Dwaylen doesn't. You have, is it a Galaxy?
Yeah, I have a Galaxy. I use Amazon Music, and we're on there.
Yep.
Because I see the discussion about
Kane. And that's the one. Now, if you see one that says Armchair Booking Podcast archived, that is the old feed. It's still there. It hasn't completely disappeared yet. It will hopefully here soon. I'll be able to, take it off, be gone, because I really don't see once I know Spreaker is running, there's no more issues. The old one will be gone.
Yeah.
I do want to thank Block Talk. I mean, because they were great. It's just
yeah.
I mean, didn't have any complaints. So Spreaker just happens to offer me a little bit of a better deal, and everything is one-stop shopping.
Yep.
Oh, and somehow I got an eyelash in my mouth. You ever do that? That's just horrible. But yeah, so if we're not there, if you use Google Podcasts to listen, well, if you're using Google Podcasts to listen, you probably won't hear this anyway. But just if people do contact me, if you know somebody who listens through Google and they're saying, hey, it's not showing up, just let them know it should be soon. It has been submitted. Because like Amazon, it actually took a few days for it to finally show up. Stitcher, I finally got that fixed, that issue. And because I had to put on the new feed. Well, then it wasn't showing up. And then contacted them, and the guy said, well, I can see it just fine. I was like, well, I can't.
He's like, well, I can't.
Yeah. All right, log off, log back on. I did. I've even deleted the app and reinstalled it, and it still showed up. Finally, he looked and he's like, oh, he said, somehow it was set to private.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So he fixed it, and boom, we are showing up back on Stitcher again.
Okay.
Yep. So also showing up on Podbay, because actually Ted the Hillbilly Heel, actually, if you look at him now, his Twitter name, it actually says shoot name Ted Heel.
Yeah.
Or Hill, Hill. That dude, he was so awesome. He was, man, that was a fun interview. I mean, it really was. But I mean, it's been such a joy just getting us on all the audio platforms, because it has been now, I mean, here in a couple months, the podcast will be 2 years old, and Dwaylen would have been with us for a year. And I mean, that's pretty wild. And and here soon you might see a different logo. I know Hope, Dwaylen's wife, has talked to a friend of hers, apparently, who can, something for us. And so I'm like, you know what? New platform, new host, go for it.
Yeah.
We can have a new logo, and we'll keep the old one for t-shirt sake.
Yep.
But and speaking of merch, you can find us on tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. And a couple other social media things, you can find Dwaylen on Twitter at @fat_daddy73.
Yep.
And he also has another YouTube channel that him and his wife run. They call it Big and Fat. Hope is Big Mama, not to be confused with the Northern Wrestling Federation's Big Mama.
Right.
And they have met. They have met
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yep.
So they are aware of each other. And Dwaylen is Fat Daddy, just like the Twitter handle.
Yep.
It makes
Just
sense.
like the Twitter handle. Yep.
And he kind of put it on a little bit of a hiatus. I know.
Yeah, we just got busy with stuff and just didn't have the time to put into it, but we're gonna get that started back up. We've got a few ideas to get that going again. So
and I'm looking
for some new episodes soon. We're on YouTube.
To seeing it, especially if you're eating a whole bunch of hot crap again. And y'all need to see this. Go look up for Big and Fat on YouTube. Also, not to be confused with Big Fat. It's BIGGFATT. Yes, underscore Big Fat underscore. That is our friend Chris. That is his TikTok. Him and his 1.5 million followers.
Yeah.
Really good friend of ours, and we are very happy to see that. And he's actually been going on tour with that.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff he's been doing on Facebook.
And he also supports us, and also, speaking of support and speaking of other social media or other podcasts or whatever you want to call it, I actually created another podcast called Cubicle Chat. And that is it's not about wrestling. I mean, we could discuss some wrestling, but I'm trying to keep it to where we discuss other things, because a lot of people don't realize this. Dwaylen and I are not just wrestling guys. Because depending on who you talk to, I'm pretty sure you've experienced this. Some people refer to me as the wrestling guy or the wrestling podcast guy. I found that at work sometimes they that's the guy that has the wrestling podcast. And they're not doing me in an insulting way. They're like, that's, you have a podcast, it's pretty cool. And they've actually asked me how to start one and things like that. But sometimes I want to talk about something a little different. Because Dwayne and I mean, I don't know if maybe by some people's standards you refer to us as educated, but we were educated. I mean, we've been through college, and I've done a lot of world traveling, and Dwaylen is just a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. I refer to you as that yesterday, by the way, because once you listen, you'll hear it. Because I actually had Justin from TNT Sports Talk, also known as Justin and Trey. I had him on the podcast yesterday, and we were just discussing just podcasting. A little bit of wrestling, but it had more to do with our podcasting and how it's led us to interact with a lot of the wrestlers from like the NWF.
Right.
And how we were able to interview Chris Harris. Of course, they've also had Chris Harris, and then we were able to interview Buff Bagwell. And they've interviewed other because their podcast is more focused on just overall sports.
Yeah.
And he says wrestling is a sport. That's why they they include in there. And I haven't even been able to catch all their interviews, but some of the people they've had on there, I actually had to ask them, I was like, how did you get, how are you finding these people? Well, for one thing, a lot of it's Trey, because I call him Fearless Trey. Trey will contact anybody. He does not care.
Yeah.
It does not bother him the least. He's like, reject me. Oh, well, I'll move on.
Yeah. Take your shot.
Yep. And he does. And, but they've had David Fletcher, I believe. He was a former Bengal. He actually played on the last Bengals team that had been to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And I want to say he also was with the Raiders for a bit, but then they also had a current Raiders cheerleader on the show. She's also an actress, and she was on that Pamela and Tommy Lee show
on Hulu. Yeah.
That one I haven't watched it yet. But I've seen the other Pamela and Tommy Lee show, but that's not very family friendly, but we've actually talked about that too. And it's like, okay. But they've had sports writers on there. I mean, and so their show is really, really good. So definitely gonna check those out. But when Justin and I, we talked about just podcasting in general, pros and cons of it, some of the different challenges, we compared like the different platforms, and, I'm amazed at the product they put up because I mean he does Justin. He wants to put forth a very good quality product,
Right.
and that's his goal. And he has other goals. I mean, and I like that. You know, he'd like to do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's like that'd be great. You know, you could earn X amount of money by waking up, and this is what you do 2-3 hours a day. And you know, and so that probably, you know, some days be more, some days be
Yeah.
less, but
Yeah.
because you still have to do your research and
Mm-hmm.
because you have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you want to listen to that episode, just go search for a Cubicle Chat, and you'll be able to find it on Twitter. It's Cubicle_chat, and on Facebook it's just Cubicle Chat. I don't have an Instagram set up for it yet. Next week, my special guest is going to be this man right here.
Me.
And you already know the topic. I know you were actually
Yep.
going to be on there yesterday, but you
Yeah.
had an obligation that you found out about or you'd forgotten about.
I'd completely forgot about it until my wife reminded me, and I'm like, crap.
Yep. And like me, you know, Dwaylen doesn't like being punched in the face by his wife.
No.
Yeah. So sometimes you just got to families come first, obligations come first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I was very grateful that I just hit up Justin because he's not out of work. He's just injured and he can't work. And he normally works second shift. You know, so I said, hey, what are you doing between this time? And so he's like, nothing. I said, hey, you want to come on? So, but Dwaylen's going to be in there. We're scheduling for next week. I have other guests set up as well, like our friend Alan. I was talking to him today. Cool. He and I, you know, I was like, well, we probably might discuss, like military type stuff.
Yeah.
You know, even though, because I mean, obviously, you know, we knew each other before the military, and but I mean, it's kind of comparing our careers. You know, think like that.
Right.
You know, so definitely go check that out. You can actually email that one also at cubiclechatpodcast@gmail.com. So, but that's all of our links, and I think I got everybody.
I think that's everything. Yep.
Yeah, because TNC, Ted the Hillbilly Hill, the Hill Truth podcast. Go check it out. I'll go check out True Crime Cast, and their Bless Their Hearts podcast. Mm-hmm. Because those guys are great, and their podcasts are very entertaining. So, and that was kind of the inspiration for me to do something besides wrestling, because they wanted to do something besides crime. Because you know, you don't want to have murder on the brain all the time.
Yeah, you got to have that palate cleanser.
That's actually exactly. Did you listen to the Bless Their Hearts today?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, yeah. Funny you said that. I was like, yep. He said palate cleanser.
And Savannah, my oldest daughter, Savannah, was she's found Dateline on Peacock, so she's been watching that, and she'll watch it for a little while, and she's like, so then I throw on then she says she'll throw on like Saved by the Bell or something, because she's like, you can only watch so much of that, and then you need something else. I'm like, exactly, you need a palate cleanser. I'm like, I mean, I watch stuff, you know, I watch stuff about serial killers, but then after a while I got to switch it up, because it's like, can't have that on the brain all day.
Yep. So speaking of serial killers, did you know that once upon a time there was a female serial killer in Mexico who was also a female wrestler?
Actually, I believe I did read that somewhere.
I can't remember the name.
I can't either.
But she was not in AEW or WWE because neither one of them tolerate things like that. No. And I don't blame them. I mean, it gives your company a bad look.
Yeah.
But so this interview Becky Lynch did, and you sent me the link for it, and I was reading it. And what was your reaction when you read about what she was saying?
Part of it, I was like, oh, how much of this is in character and how much of this is her real thoughts? I mean, if this is her real thoughts, then I get it. She's telling the company line, you know.
Yeah.
She's got to take up for the company that she's working for. But I don't know. Like, I won't read the whole thing because the article's a little long, but it's from she was a guest on it's Drew Garabo. It's a live featured cut of the day. And she talks about AEW's women's division, and she believes WWE's women's division is on a whole different level. She said that AEW doesn't give their women the same opportunities that the WWE women get. And also said that the women in AEW aren't as talented as the women in the WWE division. I completely disagree with that.
Exactly.
Because AEW, not only do they have their own homegrown talent, but they have talent from all over the world come in and work. Like right now, they have scheduled for next week's Dynamite is a unification match for the Ring of Honor Women's World Title, because Mercedes Martinez is the interim women's champion. Deonna Purrazzo is the official women's champion. Deonna Purrazzo is coming to Dynamite to defend against Mercedes Martinez to determine who is the one true Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. Deonna Purrazzo has been, I mean, since the day, pretty much since her 90 day, her 30 days was up, because she was an NXT talent that she got released. She has been on a tear through women's wrestling. She is until this past weekend, she was the AAA women's champion. She's been the Impact Women's World Champion, current Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. Mercedes Martinez is like a legend in women's wrestling. She's won championships all over the independent circuit. I mean, she's the current interim ROH Women's World Champion. Thunder Rosa is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Current AEW Women's World Champion. AEW's women's roster, you have Nyla Rose, second ever AEW women's champion. Amazing talent. Nyla Rose is probably my favorite female wrestler right now. She is just amazing. Everything about her is like her in-ring work, just her presentation, her mic skills, all of it. They've got Ruby Soho. They've got Jamie Hayter. She's from Britain. She's aligned with Britt Baker. She's an amazing talent. Got Britt Baker. For all intents and purposes, Britt Baker's still the face of the women's division.
She is. She didn't have to have the belt to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's built herself to be a big enough star where she's the face of the division with or without the title. Toni Storm, who thought about retiring because WWE had just felt like she lost herself working for WWE, decided to sign with AEW and is
shut in the arm.
Yeah, and is having the time of her life. You've got Red Velvet. You've got Jade Cargill, who is 30-0, who has never lost a match and has been in her. She's only been in AEW. She's a TBS champion. And
she'll. Did you listen to her interview with Jericho on his podcast?
I didn't.
Well, she even said it like this. She said, "I don't have to do this."
Yeah.
She said, she come back. She said flat out, "I'm wealthy." And I almost felt like I said, "Well, your husband already had some of the wealth, But I mean, they did build it, a lot of it, also together because she works her butt off at whatever she does, But she just happens to love wrestling. She takes it very seriously. She keeps herself in just ridiculous shape. I mean, she has more abs than what I've ever had in my entire life, and the fact that she's 30-0, I mean, and eventually, she will lose, she will lose a match.
Yeah, she's got to lose, but I don't know to who. I mean, she's beaten just about everybody. I mean, there's a few she hasn't faced yet, but
and like I said, I mean, she is amazing in the ring.
Yeah. It gets better every single time you see her. She's just improving, and that speaks volumes for the work that she's putting in, and it speaks volumes for the opportunity that AEW is giving her.
Yep.
Apparently they saw something in her and was like, we're going to run with this.
She has an absolutely fantastic look. Tall, muscular, but not manly muscular, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Not bodybuilder muscular, but she's
lean.
Cut. She's lean. She's cut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they could easily make her also the face of the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though right now, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, which is a shoot title.
Yeah.
You know, she's got that on lockdown, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't see that leaving anytime soon.
I don't either. Another thing Becky Lynch said was that she doesn't think, she said, I don't think that they are AEW's women's division are represented the way we are. They don't get as much time as we get, and frankly, they're not as good as we are. Again, completely false, because honestly, if you're not in the main event title picture, then WWE's women's divisions don't get time.
Right.
Now they get more, sadly, they get more time in developmental than they do on the main roster. But like your average women's match in WWE, if you take out the entrances, is 3-4 minutes, if that.
I mean, what was it called? Not Queen of the Ring.
The Queen's Crown.
Queen's Crown. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
should have just called it Queen of the Ring. Yeah, because the entire tournament lasted less than 10 minutes, and that included the finals.
I mean, I was actually going to say 15, but I think you're. I think it lasted about. I think the whole tournament lasted about 10 minutes, because I think each match only got like a minute and a half or so. Like I said, excluding entrances. It's like, here, go, just here you go. We'll give you what you want now.
Yeah, and it's like, and just this past week there was no women's match at all on SmackDown. There was 2 interview segments. There was 2 promo segments. The women's tag champions, Naomi and Sasha Banks,
had a
little promo thing with Natalya and Shayna Baszler.
I actually watched SmackDown. I didn't even catch there was no actual women's matches.
Yep. And then they had the contract signing with Rousey and Flair, which is just a very outdated. That's a very outdated concept, because in this day and age, everybody knows that the contract's already been signed before the match was even announced. So the legitimate, contract. So it's like,
it's no longer special.
It's no longer special when you do a contract signing like every other title match.
and of course that same SmackDown, and this wasn't obviously it wasn't a women's match, when they had the lumberjack match, Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Which, you're not supposed to get counted out in a lumberjack match, but somehow Sami Zayn still got counted out in a lumberjack match.
Yeah.
And of course, the way the WWE has been doing it, they have a lumberjack or a lumberjill match, either one. The match always ends with all the lumberjacks having like a mini battle royal outside the ring, and they somehow make their way to the entrance ramp, and somebody flies over the top and lands on all of them.
Yep. They make their way to the entrance ramp, or they make their way in a bundle near the timekeeper's table, so somebody can jump over the turnbuckle. And
there's always somebody doing like this or fighting, going, "Are they gonna jump yet? Are they jumping?"
Yeah, they're standing like this, huddled, and it's like looking like, "Are they coming? Are they coming?" And it's like,
and it's kind of like when your kids like 2 and they're like standing on a couch and you're going, "Come on, come on!"
Yeah,
they're going to jump. I mean, that's but so the women's division WWE, yes, they have some big names. Okay, the name Flair, the name Flair is always going to be big. Becky Lynch, I mean, she's proven herself.
Yeah.
Bianca Belair is, way beyond her years in the ring. I mean, she's had so many accomplishments that most people don't get until they've got at least 5 more years down the road.
Right.
But she's earned every single one of the things that she's got. And of course, you have Sasha, same thing. She's amazing. I want Bayley to come back at some point, not too soon, because I also don't want her to get re-injured.
Yeah. Asuka just came back.
Yep. Heard about that.
Trying to think. Naomi's good. Alexa Bliss is good if they would let her not do the pseudo fiend gimmick and just let her do what she's good at.
When she was the best heel in the company, not female heel, the best heel.
Yes.
I mean, and because as small as what she is, and she
5 feet
was
of fury is what they call
5 feet
it.
of fury. Yep. And her twisted bliss finishing move. I mean, the way she does it, you're like, okay, and I like that move so much. This was on 2K18, I believe, even 2K17, one of them. you could build your own wrestler, use undermove. Yeah, my finishing move was that. So I love that move. And I mean, she's not the first person I saw do it. The first person I remember seeing do it was actually Too Cold Scorpio. Because he was the first one that did the 450 or whatever. But then he also did that. Whatever, I don't know what they called it. Of course now they call it the Twisted Bliss because of Alexa. Hey, it's all in another room. I can say it.
I said it and mine went off, but it didn't. The blue light came on, but it didn't do anything. So, but yeah, I mean, they have the problem with WWE is not the roster that they have; it's how they use that roster.
Exactly
is the issue, because if you're not one of the 4 horsemen women, Becky, Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley, right now Bianca Belair. To an extent, Naomi, because Naomi is a champion right now, but they don't really focus on the tag titles like they should. So if you're not one of the 4 horsewomen or Bianca Belair, they don't really do anything with you. Rhea Ripley even said it in an interview on Raw. She said, because they were trying to find out why she had turned on Liv Morgan, and she said, when I came to Raw, I beat Asuka for the Raw Women's title by myself. Then I get thrown into the tag team division and with partners that have just pulled me down. I know that's kind of storyline wise,
right, but
she's absolutely right. Rhea Ripley should be up there with Bianca Belair, building those two as the face of your women's division. Rhea Ripley's only 25 years old, and look at what look how talented she is. Everything. I mean, she has everything down. Mic skills. Her look alone screams star. They always talk about, we build new stars. No, actually, WWE has gotten to the point where their stars are building themselves in spite of the machine. Because Rhea Ripley, everything about her screams stars, from her presence, the way she carries herself, her look, her in-ring skills, everything. She should be pushed to the moon. And yet, we're still keeping the SmackDown Women's title on Charlotte
for whatever reason.
I will give them credit on Bianca Belair is the Raw Women's Champion, so it is someone new. They finally got the belt off Becky. Becky's moved on to it's going to be a small feud with Asuka, from what I understand. But it's just usually that top echelon, and then everybody else is lost by the wayside. Like, where's Dewdrop? I hadn't seen Dewdrop.
Yes.
Haven't seen Dewdrop since.
I was thinking Elimination Chamber. But
it was. I think it was the night after. I think it was the night after Elimination Chamber. I think she wrestled Bianca Belair in like a Contenders match, and Bianca beat her, and then haven't seen her since. Which I follow her on Twitter, but I hadn't seen much activity from her on Twitter either. But Dewdrop deserves much better than what they've gave her.
And
I mean, she's a great heel. She's great in the ring. She has presence, mic skills, everything. It's just, I know how WWE is, and they're not going to make her the face of the division because of her size.
Nope, because Vince McMahon is
because if you're not petite, then he's not doing it.
Right. And even though Charlotte, I mean, well, it's kind of hard to call somebody who's a woman who's 5'11", petite, but at the same time, I mean,
she has a thinner frame.
She has a thinner frame.
Like Dewdrop is a plus size woman. Absolutely nothing wrong with plus size women. I am a fan of plus size women. But Vince McMahon is not going to push Dewdrop because he doesn't push people by their talent. That's not how, especially in his women's division. His women's division, you do not get pushed by your talent. You get pushed by your looks, your marketability. Yep. But and that's fine for casual fans. But if you're a diehard wrestling fan and, this person looks great. Say Rhea Ripley with her look. She looks fantastic. But she gets in the ring and can't run the ropes. then why am I paying to watch this?
And sometimes it takes the other wrestlers to go to Vince and say, look, they can't, they're not cutting it.
They don't have it.
Because what was his name? Nathan Jones? Was he the one that
yes
they were going to push to the moon? And then Taker was like,
he ain't got it.
He ain't got it. You know, he might have it sometime, but he don't have it right now.
Yeah, he had the look and the presence, but he didn't have the skills. Like they said he could barely run the ropes, much less anything else. But AEW, you've got, and that's the thing too with the WWE Women's Division, with Becky's comment about how they don't get as much time, which I feel AEW's Women's Division, I feel their matches get more time and more attention all throughout the card, not just the champions or the upper echelons of the main event. I also feel like AEW has women who have traveled the world, who are still continuing to travel the world.
Yes.
Because that's the good thing about AEW, is because they rotate people. They have rankings and they actually follow those rankings. Like right now, Serena Deb is the #1 ranked female according to the rankings in AEW. She just beat Hikaru Shida in a Philly street fight last night on Dynamite. So I'm pretty sure sooner or later, they even had Thunder Rosa backstage watching the match on the monitor. So probably they're going to lead into, that's probably going to be Thunder Rosa's next challenger, because she beat Nyla Rose, who was the #1 ranked woman in the rankings. And now Serena Deb has moved up. And so wins and losses actually matter in AEW. It's just the whole, and like, plus these women, you know, they wrestle on Dark Elevation. They're also still wrestling on the independent scene.
Yep. And Thunder Rosa, she actually runs her own company down in Texas.
Yep.
Because Big Mama and Riley Matthews, I know those are two of them at least that have actually gone to Texas and wrestled on their shows. I thought there were some more. I thought maybe Selena Dean had also, but I know she actually goes down to Memphis, and it's like Liberty Championship or something. The name Liberty's in the name, or the word the word Liberty's in the name. But you know, for them to do that, I mean, that gives them other opportunities, and so they're not bound by the same kind of contracts that the WWE places everybody on, where they say, okay, you're working for us. By the way, we have non-compete clauses. By the way, we also have you're not because you belong to us. And it's like, wait a minute. If they're contractors, independent contractors, that means, yes, they're doing a service for you. They're not your employee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's what I've never understood.
That's been coming under fire in the past couple of years.
Yep. And they are the only company that do that. Impact doesn't do that. AEW doesn't do that. Ring of Honor didn't do that. You know, everybody was allowed to, I mean, it's like, here's your dates that you're going to work for us. But outside of those dates, if there's somewhere else you want to work, then you're free to go work there. Like Thunder Rosa was I believe it's Warrior Wrestling. She relinquished the women's championship of that organization when she won the AEW Women's World Title, and Athena, former Ember Moon, won the vacant title, I think, last week.
And yeah, Thunder Rosa, Melissa Cervantes. That's her real name. That just sounds cool. It really does. Oh, she's married with a kid too. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yep. So, and speaking of having kids, nice to see Lacey Evans is back.
Yeah, Lacey Evans is back. Yep.
Yep. So, because I'm glad Ric Flair was gone by the time.
Yeah.
Because that storyline was not only was stupid, but it was tasteless.
Yeah, it was very tasteless. And yeah. But yeah, Lacey Evans is back. Asuka's back. They're expecting Bayley back anytime soon. Trying to think who else. Now, if they would just craft the division better,
Yep.
and really Raw has more of the focus on the women's division than SmackDown does. I mean, SmackDown's women's division is pretty much right now Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. You don't see.
I'm guessing they don't want to take any attention away from them, so they don't want to have any of the other women. I mean, that's just my guess. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying I think that's what
You're probably right, but it's you can have other allergies. And I got to mow my yard again tomorrow.
Have fun with that. The allergies kept me, after mowing my yard, kept me from watching the NWF down in Covington, the Thunderdome the other day, because I'd mowed my grass. I could just feel it, all that dust and everything, and it just my head
all
just
that
started,
pressure. Yeah,
my head just started.
Well, it's supposed to rain here Saturday, so I want to get it mowed tomorrow. I'm gonna do it when I get off work, so I can do it while the ground's still dry.
Yeah, push mower riding.
Push. Right. We've just a small little lot, so I'm just pushing it.
Okay, I'm just under 2 acres, so yeah, I'm riding.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I'd be riding too.
Yeah.
But but it's again, another difference. You can look at AEW and see they have other stories going on besides the championship stories. I mean, you've got Thunder Rosa, who is pretty much waiting on her next challenger. You've got Jade Cargill, who just successfully defended her TBS championship, won her 30th match, still undefeated. But then you got Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter, who have been feuding. They're going to meet in the first round of the Owen Hart tournament that they're doing.
And what's the basis of their feud also?
The basis of their feud is both of them want to win that tournament, and they want the other one out of the way.
And see, and that makes sense.
Yeah. But and they're both. Toni Storm is from Australia. Jamie Hayter is from England. They have both wrestled each other on the European wrestling scene.
Okay.
So they have history. And storyline wise, they don't like each other based on their past history of competing against each other. So they've just brought that into AEW. And it's like I said, they both want to win the Owen Hart tournament. And so we're just going to see who the better woman is.
Yep.
Plus, it brings Britt Baker in because Jamie Hayter is aligned with Britt Baker. Toni Storm is friends with Ruby Soho. They're going to have a tag team match on, I believe it's going to be on Dynamite this coming week. So all that ties in. You've always got Nyla Rose. She's on, I think she's got a match coming up on Dark this coming week. Trying to think who else. Maria Shafir, who just lost to Jade Cargill, but she didn't look bad in defeat. I mean, she's got good wrestling skills. She's got MMA background. They've got a lot going on in their division.
Oh yeah, did you mention the Bunny?
Yep, the Bunny, Ty Conti, Anna Jay from the Dark Order.
That's pretty sad. I mean, because I can look. I can't really see it because the background, but I mean, I'm having to scroll through and this is on the Wikipedia page. I mean, because like Abaddon, Anna Jay, AQA, Britt Baker, the Bunny, Emma Sakuri, Hikaru Shida. Did I pronounce that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Jade Cargill, Jamie Hayter, Kira Hogan, Chris Statlander,
Chris Statlander. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean. Layla Hirsch, Mercedes Martinez, Nyla Rose, Paige Van Zant, Penelope Ford, Rebel Red Velvet, Riho, Ruby Soho, Serena Deb, Tay Conti, Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm, and Yuka Suzuki. That's a lot of names.
Yeah, and that are rotated in and out to keep things fresh.
Yes, and think about this. I know there's a few Japanese names on here, and of course. Thunder Rosa is Mexican, like as in from Mexico, Mexican. And you mentioned Toni Storm's from Australia. Who's she going against? Is from England.
Jamie Hayter.
Jamie Hayter. Yep. Somebody was from Brazil. I cannot remember who it is.
Ty Conti.
Yes, she's amazing. Also.
Yep.
I mean, it's so they're representing all these different countries around the world, and I know there's some I'm forgetting.
Yeah, and you get all these different influences, from different, from different styles of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that same homogenized version like you get in WWE, because everybody, when you go to WWE, everybody has to adapt to the WWE style of wrestling. And in AEW, it's like everybody brings their own type of wrestling in and incorporates it with someone else, but they don't have to change how they wrestle.
Exactly. And and one of the things I like doing, and Mercedes Martinez, I'm just thinking about the name itself, is just screaming Latino.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's from Connecticut apparently. So
she's from Connecticut, but she is Latino descent though.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just, oh, where's she from? You get like somewhere in South America. No, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was just that one just kind of makes me laugh. But there's got to be a Canadian in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
There's always a Canadian.
Yeah.
Because you look at the WWE roster. Okay, you do have a crap ton of Americans. You have one Australian that I can think of, and that's we were literally just said her name, and now I've already forgotten it because she just turned
Rhea Ripley.
Rhea Ripley, yes. You have two Scottish women, Dewdrop and Nikki Cross.
Yep.
And of course Naomi.
Nikki Cross is another one that's just disappeared. I mean, they've actually, she's pretty much been dropped into the 24/7 scene. I saw her at the.
How do you go from you won Money in the Bank and then you turn around and cashed it in? It was the very next night, wasn't it?
Yeah, she cashed in the next night, won the Raw Women's title. She's been multiple time Women's Tag Team Champion, and now she's been dropped in the 24/7 scene.
No, look, that's R-Truth's belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if R-Truth retired today, they would rename that the R-Truth Championship. When he goes into the Hall of Fame, and like I said, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, he's going to take that belt with him. I mean,
well, it's like Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke is the 24/7 champion. I feel like she's having fun with it, and that's great.
Yeah,
but it's like Dana Brooke could have done so much more than that. She had the potential to do more if they were just willing to put in the time and give her a little push.
I mean, Dana Brooke, she is like legitimately extremely strong because she's a bodybuilder. I mean, you don't become a bodybuilder by not lifting, obviously.
Right. Exactly.
So there's some legit toughness there. And, for her to not be used properly, and I'm not saying the 24/7 scene is bad. Don't get me wrong. But it's one of those things that all of a sudden you see everybody. I do get tired of seeing the chase. You got like 50 people that are.
Well, yeah, and it's always people that it's like it's always people that are stuck in catering.
Yeah,
because they don't have anything for them to do that they just throw in there and it's like, oh, chase the 24/7 champion.
Yeah, so they're like lower mid card at best.
Yeah,
because that's where they have them. It's not that their talent level isn't higher.
Yeah, that's just where they have them booked. And really, if you look at AEW, their women's division, you don't really have a lower mid card. You have Thunder Rosa, Jade Cargill, and then Contenders.
Yeah, I mean, and the Contenders, I mean, it would be kind of a pyramid in a way.
Yeah, I mean, but
still, the ones at the bottom are not untalented. I mean,
exactly.
Those ones at the bottom they have a lot more talent than people in other companies.
Mm-hmm.
And they may be higher in the food chain of those companies, but they wouldn't stand a candle to the ones that are the so-called bottom in AEW.
Yep.
So, and right now I'm just kind of curious. I'm just kind of looking up where a lot of these are from because I like doing things like that because I've always considered myself kind of, I guess, like the armchair anthropologist. I mean, I like just kind of reading about, and like talking to people and finding out where they're from, because it's somewhat off subject, I guess, but it doesn't matter, especially if I'm talking to somebody face to face. We may have had different backgrounds, different. I mean, because I met people from all over the world, even though like on my Facebook, I mean, I got friends, in different countries in Europe. I got, a couple of friends in India, and these are people that I've known like personally. It's not like I met them through Facebook. I mean, I knew them when I was over in England. I have friends in Uganda, friends in Kenya, friends in South Africa. Not as many in Asia as much anymore because a lot of them have actually moved to the States. That one's kind of weird, but to me, it's like, okay, if we're sitting across from each other, like physically, or we're shaking hands, our backgrounds are so different, but it also led us to this very exact same point that we are right there.
Yep.
And that's why I love reading about people and actually talking with them. Just we compare experiences, and I just think it's great. That's why I like reading. Okay, where are they from? Because they are all in the same ring together.
Yeah.
All destinations led to right there.
Yep.
But anyway, I'll get off the philosophical tangent for a second. But AEW, I don't know why Becky would say that. Well, she says WWE maybe they have more talent. It's not really showing right now. I mean, and then we know the potential. I mean, we know what they're capable of.
Yeah, but like you said, they're not really showing it because they're content with just pushing a handful of people and giving a handful of people opportunities. But they're not building. I mean, besides Bianca Belair, which I feel like she's an exception to the rule, her, Rhea Ripley, but they're not building any new stars. Because I mean, Sasha, Bayley, Becky, and Charlotte, they can't do this forever. Nope. Eventually, they're going to have to retire. I mean, not anytime soon. All of them are.
They're all pretty young.
Yeah, but you've got to build other stars. You've got to have other people, or otherwise, it's going to be the same cycle to where you're just seeing the same matches over and over again.
Yeah. Does AEW, do they have a training center of any kind?
I don't think they have an actual training center. I know they use Dark and Dark Elevation a lot for that. And then I know Dustin Rhodes helps train a lot of the females, and he has his own wrestling school. So they may train there. But I know he's been working with a lot of the women. Daniel Bryan has been working with Jade Cargill. So I mean, just they've got the foundation there with Dustin Rhodes and Bryan Danielson. You've got legends like Dustin Rhodes has been doing this for 5 decades.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because he started in the late 80s.
And yeah.
Wow.
He's got 30, almost 35 years in the business.
Wow. Yeah.
Bryan Danielson's been doing this for 20 plus years.
And of course we mentioned Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. 20 plus years.
The Hardys have been in there right around, well, not 30 yet, but close to 30.
Yeah.
I had to think, because they were actually still in high school when they started.
Yeah.
And because Jeff had to make up his mind, football. Union Pines High School, he had to choose football or professional wrestling. The reason why it wasn't because of the potential for injury, is because they thought because he was getting paid to wrestle, it would make him
ineligible. Yeah.
Yep. And then we don't care if you get hurt, but you getting paid or what?
Right.
You need to tell me there, boy.
I mean, you've got John Moxley, who's probably been doing this. He did 15 years. You've got Sting, who's been doing this as long as
also another one 5 decades.
Another one 5 decades in. And the minds that they have for pro wrestling in AEW. You've got William Regal, who is absolutely one of the most brilliant wrestling minds. The little tidbits that you take away from William Regal being on commentary whenever, the Blackpool Combat Club is in the ring, just the little things that you just don't notice. Like he talks about making your opponent's eyes water. He's like, if you get a little shot in above the bridge of the nose, It makes their eyes water. They can't see. They can't see anything coming that you do. They can't get their bearings in the ring. Just little bitty things that, you know, not the casual fan's not going to pick up on. And I feel like that they've gutted WWE so much. They don't have that. Like I don't think Finley's in charge of the women's division anymore. He used to be the ones that trained them and everything.
Right.
And they just don't have someone teaching them those little nuances like other companies do. And it's like, because they're more concerned on the sizzle, as JR would say, and not the steak. And you can be as flashy as you want. Perfect example. Becky Lynch came out on Raw, cut a promo about how she had hit rock bottom because she had lost the women's championship and all this, but she came out looking like a rock star. And it's like, in her whole, she came out one of her whole, elaborate outfits. She comes out looking.
If you're depressed like that, you need to come out looking like Poor Corbin or whatever, Brooke Corbin or what was it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's just simple little touches like that. She should have come out and just like t-shirt and jeans or t-shirt and leggings or, no makeup, just, coming out, head down and everything, cut your promo about how you hit rock bottom and you've got to climb your way back.
Yep.
Instead, you can't say that you've hit rock bottom when you come out dressed like you just left a runway, a fashion runway. You can't. It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing.
What, rock bottom? You hit the floor of your penthouse.
Exactly.
That's not rock bottom.
Yeah, it makes your, it makes your promo. Nobody's believing what you're saying. We all know it's scripted. We all know that the promos, in kayfabe or whatever. But if you're going to try to draw people in, then you've got to do it the right way. And you can't tell me that you've hit rock bottom when you come out looking like $1 million. You can't be dressed to the nines and then tell me, oh, my life is in shambles because I lost my championship.
Right about the time I stopped watching a lot of NBA is when they went on strike in 1998, and I can't remember who it was, and he was whining because they had to sell one of his Rolls Royces. And and at the time I was working I was actually working more hours at the part-time job, but I was working part-time jobs to pay off the bills because I was in Maryland. Maryland's very expensive, and I also had an ex-wife who dropped a bunch of bills on me, and of course, me being military, they were going to come after me for getting paid, but. Working all those jobs, averaging 3 hours of sleep a night, and here he is. I had to sell one of my Rolls Royces. I'm like, I'm done with you. Yeah. That's when or
it's like when you see an actor and it's like, oh, I've hit money trouble, so I have to sell this castle I bought in England, and it's like, oh, poor you.
Exactly. And I'm like, it's like, you ever had a point where you weren't sure whether or not you're going to have enough money to pay your electric bill, and all of a sudden the lights start flickering?
Or do I pay the electric bill or do I buy food?
Yeah.
I don't have enough money for both.
Right. And it's like, or I know some people, I'm not going to say any names, but I've known some people who go, let's play the lottery. Which bill do we pay this month?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or the people that, both of us being diabetic, thankfully we are not in this situation, but there are people that are like, do I pay my bills? Do I pay my rent or mortgage, or do I buy insulin this month?
Right.
That's a real thing. People are having to decide whether or not, do I buy my life-saving medicine, or do I pay my rent or mortgage so I can have a roof over my head?
Right. And those, it's like, what do you do? So when she's coming in going, oh, poor me.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to come over across a barricade and I'm going to punch you next.
Yeah. It's like especially if you're trying to reach the casual fan, because, even the casual fan is going to be like, if they really think about it, they're going to be like, oh, so she's hit rock bottom because of losing her championship, but she looks like she comes out dressed like a model. It's like, I don't want to hear about your problems.
Exactly. And and it's not a good look. And yes, like you said, I know it's all kayfabe, it's all scripted, and it's all part of it, but if she's depressed, to make her look above stuff like that, and make her look the part.
Well, you look just a simple thing like on AEW when Britt Baker lost the women's world title to Thunder Rosa. Just a tiny little detail. Britt Baker said since she wasn't the AEW Women's World Champion, she was boycotting Dynamite until Dynamite was in her hometown of Pittsburgh. And she did not appear on any AEW programming until last week when they were in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
It's just those little details.
And that granted, that's called, look, I need some rest.
Yeah,
because they got to give they have to give their bodies rest. I mean,
and she needed the rest. She does have her own, her own dental practice, and but it's just that small little detail as to why she wasn't on TV. It doesn't take a lot to establish a believable story. It'd be like the former champion's mad and throwing a fit, and she's boycotting the show until she's in her hometown where everybody's going to be cheering for her.
Yep. And that's the way wrestling.
Yeah.
That's the way it's written.
Yeah.
If you know they're going to be out, Undertaker, prime example, 1994. At the 94 Royal Rumble, of course, he went into the casket match with the Yokozuna for the WWF at the time world title.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they had, 37 heels come out there and beat him up.
It's like every heel on the roster came out to beat him up. And
not one face came out to help him.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I miss the old days, with him. But, they beat him up so bad, tossed him in the casket. And then, of course, that's when the lightning struck and I will not rest. And they had the little image. And he didn't show back up until the Undertaker match at SummerSlam. Yep. I mean, so you're talking January to probably about, July? So that's a good 6 months.
Yeah. Actually, it was in August. He didn't come back until.
Oh, so 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because he had a lot of nagging injuries that he needed to let heal up. I mean, they weren't big injuries, but there was enough. Just like, look, if he doesn't, take a break, he's going to permanently hurt himself.
Yeah. Well, that's like in ECW. I think it was around 94. Tommy Dreamer had just, started to get big in ECW. He was in a feud with the Sandman. They were feuding. Sandman always came out with a lit cigarette. That was his thing. Well, the cigarette accidentally poked him in the eye and blinded him in that eye. Well, Tommy Dreamer had hit him with a kendo stick at the same time. So the storyline was he was blind. So Sandman was not seen anywhere. He didn't leave his house for like 3 months. And then shows up on TV. Of course, it comes out that it was a swerve and he jumps Tommy Dreamer and all this. But they committed to that, and he was not seen in public anywhere, in Philly until they were ready to do the next part of the story. He stayed in his house. His wife went and got anything he needed or whatever, but he stayed at home to sell the story. And it's like WWE acts like we're just supposed to ignore all these details. And it's like they never, like, people will disappear or reappear with no explanation. And like, at least with Asuka, they acknowledged that she had, an injury that she was off for, because a lot of times people will just show back up and it's like, oh, well, and it's like, it doesn't take much. It just takes little tiny details to tell a good story or a believable reason why someone's not on TV.
Bailey got a legitimate injury.
Yep.
During training. And guess what?
Yeah. You
can get injured during training. I mean, because you're training for your thing. And I've actually, was it a meniscus tear or something? It was something that was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And that's not something that you can't push to come back early. I mean,
no,
unless you're John Cena, but
he's a freak. He's a freak of nature.
Exactly. You stole my words right there.
I mean, who tears their pectoral muscle completely off the bone, and 4 months later they're back competing?
And the Royal Rumble, and Triple H is looking at him like, I think that look was real. You're like,
I think it was too, because
what?
From what I understand, nobody knew he was there. They got him. They planned it all and got him in there, and nobody knew he was coming back.
we're gonna have to look that up because if that's the case, I mean that's even makes it even better.
Well, it's like when the Hardys came out at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
The New Day's reaction was real. Nobody knew the Hardys were there. They snuck them in and kept everybody out of the loop so it would be a legitimate surprise when they came out. That's why when the New Day were freaking out when the music hit, Big E said he's like, that was a legitimate reaction. We had no idea that's the team that was coming. We were just supposed to announce there was going to be a fourth team. He's like, everybody thought it was going to be us. And then that music hit and we were like, oh my God.
I need to learn how to play that song on guitar and bass. But so
I feel that AEW honestly, product wise, has the better women's division. Just how their women are used on a regular basis, the time that they're given to build their stories and everything. I don't feel like WWE's women's division. It's not bad. I'm not saying that because they have extremely talented women.
Yeah,
but they're not used. But they're not used well if you're not in the main event. If you're not in the championship scene, their women's division is not used very well.
Now, speaking of women's wrestling, and here's actually something I don't even think I've sent this to you yet. So this might be a surprise for you. So you may want to have a Hardy Boys reaction. And speaking of, by the way, speaking of the New Day, I don't know if you can see them. I'll just go ahead and my son decided I needed to have some company.
I see them. Awesome.
Yep. So they are sitting back here. They've been watching us the whole time. Let me put them kind of right there. But here, I'm actually going to share my screen and I'm going to show you something. This is for an event, and I know you've actually shared stuff about the event. And where's it at? Here we go. This is the event, the NWF and PGWA. By the way, PGWA stands for Professional Girl Wrestling Association. It is an all women's wrestling event that's happening on May 28th. That's Memorial Day weekend. And you see who one of the official sponsors is, don't you?
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yep. And I mean, I just was able to send this to all the information to her yesterday, because if you look at the bottom, it has the new host.
Yep. Spreaker.com. Yep.
And actually, I will. My wife is also. I won't show because she may. Well, I don't have it on my computer, but so we're both sponsoring that show, and together we, you combine what we paid together, we're actually hitting like the highest level. So we're actually also going to be co-sponsoring one of the events. We're actually going to announce us as sponsoring this match.
Oh, okay.
So also Justin told me yesterday at TNC they're also sponsoring something.
Awesome.
I think he actually went the highest tier too. But so I'm going to have a banner made, for it, like a 3x5 banner, so we can actually hang it on the table. Now, as far as what else I'm going to do at the table, I have no idea. Because just talk to people, just tell them how much, because I don't exactly have like merch to sell to there. I mean, unless I were to go and actually have a crap ton of T-shirts made up, but even that, I mean, you got to have money, and then hopefully people would buy them.
So you can make your money back. You
got to make the money back. So I'm gonna try to have some business cards made up for it. And people say that way they also don't forget us. And thinking about this, like getting down, say a list of people write down their email address, so I can actually send them the link for merch and things like that. So but either way, it'd be a good time if you were in the Cincinnati area Memorial Day weekend. I would recommend you going. It's going to be at the VFW Hall in Cincinnati. And should be a great time, because I mean, I know some of the women are going to be there. Big Mama's going to be there. Selena Dean's going to be there. Riley Matthews is going to be. I mean, these are the people I know from the NWF. Some of the other,
I know Savannah Sweet's going to be there.
Yep, Savannah Sweet's going to be there. There's some other ones. Oh my Lord, there's a name that is right there on the tip of my tongue. I'm probably going to have to go to the NWF Facebook, because they've actually laid out some of the card itself, not just the names, but the actual matches. Let me see. What can I find? And like I told Justin, because all my weekends here coming up are all very busy. So I don't know if I'll be able to make it to any wrestling until that event. Yep. Because let's see, this Saturday they're going to be in Fairfield. We're going to be in Dayton helping my daughter move back home. The next Saturday, my daughter, we're having her birthday. We're actually going out to eat and doing things like that. And my son and I are more than likely are going to go to a Reds game that night.
Okay.
Yeah, they're giving away Joey Votto like Darth Vader bobbleheads.
I did see that. I saw that on Twitter. They were going to be giving those away.
Yep. Let's see. On the 14th, that's going to actually be in Mount Orb. Tiny Tim, Alex Hayden in a cage. The next day is mine and my wife's anniversary. She's already let it known. No wrestling.
Yeah, anniversary wins.
But I'm like, but it's Tiny Tim in a cage. But Tim Hall, he goes to our church. And,
she does not care.
She does not care. I mean, the next weekend, the 21st. Let me see what is going on with them on the 21st. But I think they're down in Ludlow on the 21st. And I'm not going to be able to make that one. I don't remember why, but there's something going on. I don't remember. But so yeah, it's just very, very busy. And then the 28th, of course, we are going to be there for that one because we're actually paying a sponsorship. So you better believe we're going to be there.
Right.
So it's going to be missing a lot of wrestling. But I mean, life goes on. And I'm going to miss it's going to be the first Mount Orb event that I've missed.
Oh, wow.
The sports complex is literally 10 minutes away from my house.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss it.
They've got a WWE house show, I think, in Cape Girardeau toward the end of next month. I think. No, that's in June. Evansville, Evansville, Indiana, they have a house show toward the end of next month. I don't know if we're going to make that one or not.
How far are you from Evansville?
2 hours.
Not bad. Yeah.
No.
I mean, the drive back would kind of suck, but if it let,
we would, if we went, we would just make like a weekend of it and just get a hotel. Yeah.
We did that when Raw was in Columbus. It was the one I told you about, Big Show and Braun Strowman broke the ring.
Yeah.
It was that show. Because Columbus is about 2 hours away. And I think kids were on spring break. So we just stayed overnight and went shopping in Columbus the next day. Where is the Revolution? Why am I not seeing? Oh, there we go. I'm seeing a lot of faces, but I don't recognize Ella. Of course, is going to be there. Nikki Victory. There's some other ones that the main. See, I'm going to have to. Let's see. Okay, NWF and PGWA Revolution Rising. And do they have any matches listed? Please, W, have some matches listed. You don't have any matches listed. Okay, I need to.
Trying to think. I saw one.
I've seen them listed because there's one of the women is actually pretty well known outside of she's done stuff outside of the indies. So I'm going to guess Breezy is probably going to be also wrestling because she is listed as going at least.
Riley Matthews is wrestling Savannah Sweet.
Okay. They have been going at it here recently. I mean, they've because both of them are young and up and coming like the future stars. And Savannah, she's still really, really new. She's only had just a handful of matches now, and most of her matches have been against Riley. And
she looks pretty good though. From the
she does.
that I've seen.
Yep. Yeah, she looks really, because I saw her down in Covington the last time I was in Covington, and yeah, she did really good. And there's another one. If you see the name Jax Storm, I think that's the name. Another female. She's another female wrestler. She's really new. She is actually. Noah was telling me the other day. He said she's Army. And now I don't know. She might be reserves or guards still. But yeah, she's actually wrestling a name like Jack Storm, because I actually looked up the name, and it's actually like a comic book name as well.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, so I mean, it's a pretty hard hitting name. I like it. So, but in fact, yeah, I actually just got her on Facebook too. So under her actual real name.
Actually, I take that back. Savannah Sweet's not wrestling Riley Matthews. She is in a tag team match with Selena Dean. Selena Dean and Savannah Sweet are wrestling Thunder Kitty and Ari Alexander.
Okay, so I already like how they're shaping it up already. NWF and PGWA together in matches and not separate.
Yeah.
You know, so that makes for a much better card. So
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you're in Cincinnati area Memorial Day, go watch that. It should be a really good time. And like I said, obviously I'm going to be there, you know, and so is my wife and probably both my kids. You know, so I cannot think of anything else. I mean, we stay our piece. We think the AEW Women's Roster is definitely deeper.
Yeah.
And
just for all our listeners and watchers, support women's wrestling. Women's wrestling is, in my opinion, it is bigger and hotter than it's ever been.
Yes.
Not
Absolutely.
just on the mainstream level, but especially on the independent level. Support independent wrestling, support women's wrestling.
Yep. And you think about how far women's wrestling has come, even since when we first started watching wrestling, period. Every once in a while they'd have a women's match, like a Mid-Atlantic, you know, for example, and you go, huh.
Yeah.
All right. And then you hear, oh, there's this old lady named Fabulous Moolah, because she was old even back in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that to be mean, but yeah, she was. I mean, like, yeah, she's held the women's title for 27 years. And I'm like doing the math going, since the 50s?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, she did. I mean, she had a stranglehold on that thing. And then like, oh, but there's this other woman named Wendy Richter who beat her for it.
Yep.
But then Lalani Kai beat her. Did she beat Wendy Richter? Beat her again at WrestleMania 1, just WrestleMania, that's what they called it. And you rarely had any kind of women's matches outside of that. Even when Alundra Blaze, it got to the point where they just didn't have anyone, so she was wrestling men.
Yeah, she's wrestling men, and the only woman that she wrestled was either Bertha Faye or Bull Nakano.
Yep. And oddly enough, Lalani Kai actually made a reappearance at WrestleMania 10. You know, against Alundra Blaze, and I was like, oh, okay. But because there were so few women, they really didn't have a build up. It was just like, here, you're both women, get in there and wrestle.
Yeah.
And now they've got all women cards, like what I just showed that this podcast is sponsoring that. You have all women's organizations, like one, the PGWA, that's an all women's association. The one Thunder Rosa runs down in Texas, it's all women. And there's other ones sprinkled here and there across the country, like the one out in Memphis, I believe, that I was talking about Selena Dean going wrestling for. I'll have to ask her about that one. You know, the more details about it, just to make sure I'm not full of crap. And because nobody likes to be full of crap. But I believe that one is all women. There's another one in North Carolina that is all women. And, you know, and you watch these women, because we said this long before. This is back when we were talking about starting a podcast. And we're like, the women are just as brutal, if not more brutal, than what the men are.
Yeah. There was a street fight in AEW. It was the Bunny and Penelope Ford. I think it was on an episode of, I think it was Rampage. They were fighting Anna Jay and Ty Conti. That was a very brutal street fight. And I mean, they're covered in blood and everything. I mean, they were and women fight just as hard as the men do.
Well, but then again, think about this. When we were in high school, you saw two fights happening, one between boys, one between girls. Which one would you be more willing to break up?
The guys. I'm not breaking up a women's fight.
No, you're not.
No,
because you're about to get beat up by both of them.
Exactly.
And then they'll go back to beating each other up.
Yeah. That's our Spanish teacher has said that before. He's like, I don't break up a fight. He's like, Mr. Faulkner said, I don't break up a fight between two women. I let them fight, and then I take them to the office. I'm not getting beat up by two women. He's like, because that's what's going to happen. He's like, the guys, you can separate them, because they're just hot-headed, and they'll just, right. He's like, if women are gotten to the point where they're going to fight, get out of the way. Let them handle their business, and then deal with it.
And then, of course, there was also that fight that happened our junior year right in the middle of lunch, and I had literally just walked away, and everybody's talking about it. I was mad because I had already walked away.
Yeah.
You know what happened?
Yeah.
Somebody's shirt came up, and she didn't have on anything underneath. And
yeah.
And when you're in high school, those things are kind of important. You think at the time
a
little bit. So, but anyway, so we'll return on Monday, like Dwayne said. Go support indie wrestling. We watch all wrestling, but if you have a show, everybody's got a show close to them. Just look it up. I mean, and when I say, or at least relatively close, I get it. Some people just live out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I get that, because I've lived out in the middle of nowhere. I think West Paducah, I mean, is not exactly metropolis.
Yeah.
But, I think the closest that wrestling will come to you might be Murray, might be Paducah itself.
Maybe. Yeah, really. Nowadays, probably going to Paris, Tennessee. Actually, is probably the closest. That's where. That's where Devin wrestles.
I was going to say I couldn't remember if it was Devin or Mims. That's it. I was thinking Devin, but I was glad you verified that. So I was like, if I say Mims, I'm probably wrong, and I don't want to be wrong in front of Mims because I already feel stupid when I talk to him.
Mims is out of Clarksville.
Yeah. God, and found out they also call him the walking thesaurus. I'm like, okay, now I don't feel bad because I'm like, I had to look up like every word he said because I didn't know any of them.
I'm gonna try to catch an NWA show the next time they're in Oak Grove.
So. Definitely. If you're able to, tell Mims I said hi.
I will.
And our friend is actually going to be down there. I think next weekend. Our friend from Mississippi. Yeah, because his niece is graduating from Austin P.
Oh, okay.
You want to feel old? Think about that statement I just said.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, there's no pay-per-views really this weekend to speak of that I can think of. So, but we will always try to find some wrestling news. If we don't find any current news, we can always find a subject that we can talk about.
Yep.
And just please hope and pray for me that my work kind of calms down some.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff going on right now. I mean, it's, not really anybody's fault. And I know you were talking about how busy your day was today too. So, but we'll figure out something because this weekend is going to be a little busy for me. But we always find a way to talk about the wrestling.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We can armchair book just about anything. So
absolutely.
So, but until Monday, God bless.
All right. God bless.